So when I joined this group, I'm assuming one of the admins said that once I was ready to tell my story that there'd be people to listen. And I'm not really afraid to tell my story, and I actually really like telling my story because it's better than what people assume, or the gossip, or the rumors. I wish more people would listen to my story. But for Suicide Awareness Week, I decided that I would share my story to anybody that wanted to listen. And I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing of everybody's story because this crap happens far too often. But here's my story. And I'm going to smoke and drink while I tell you this, but please don't judge. Okay. So, March 13th of 2015, I met someone that would become the love of my life. And I had met him about 10 years prior when he was 8 and I was 18, which is kind of disgusting. But when we re-met, I was 35 and he was 25. And he saved me from an awful blind date. And we started dating. And we moved in very quickly, actually pretty much immediately. I have borderline personality disorder, and I'm sure that he had a mix of a lot of things, because I can't even pin down what one thing he was. Because he had his issues. I have my issues. Everybody has their own issues. So we started dating in March, and we moved in right away, so things went rather quickly. And in November, we broke up temporarily because he was very controlling. And he broke all the windows in our apartment from the outside. And I had had enough of the temper and of everything. And so he went to his mom's house for 2 weeks, which I'm really glad he did, because his mom got to spend time with him. And after everything that had happened, months later, I re-listened to the Facebook messages that he had left me from his mom's house. And in every message, there was a train in the background that I had never noticed before. And he came back, and I loved him. I loved him so much. And as toxic as our relationship was, we were addicted to each other. We loved each other. We would have never left each other, no matter how probably bad it was for us to stay. We were madly in love with each other. So I told him that I would work on things with him, but we couldn't tell people because I didn't want people judging me. I mean, he just broke our windows. I just didn't want anybody to know. I wanted to work on things ourselves and not have any outside influence of anything. So I was going to go out with my friends December 4th, and he knew that I was going out with my friends, and I said, this is where we're going, please don't come out, because I don't want to explain to people. I'm going to go do my thing, you go do your own thing, and we'll meet up later and do our thing. Well, I went out with my friends, and he showed up. And I had been drinking a lot. And I was trying to pretend like I was mad at him, because people were supposed to think I was mad at him. And he knew this. And so I just kept blowing him off. And I kept, like, trying to give him, like, the we'll talk later thing, or, like, why are you here thing. And he wasn't getting it. And he was very jealous that I wasn't with him, and very jealous that I was with other people. And he left. And my friends and I went to my house afterwards. And on the way to my house, we had passed him, and he flashed his brights at us. And I remember saying, I think this is going to be a long night. My friends and I went back to my house. I started making bacon, because I was going to make food for everybody. And somebody says, your phone just went off, and there's a picture of a railroad track that Bo is sending you. And I said, I'll deal with it later. Just leave it alone. And one of my friends was going to write, good luck with that. Which I'm really glad they didn't, because it would have came from my phone. And so I continued making bacon. And all of a sudden we heard sirens. And I looked at my best friend and I said, could you fucking, imagine? And she said, no way. I'm getting goosebumps already. So I got in my friend's car, and we drove a couple blocks, and the train was stopped on the tracks, cutting off the entire town. And I called my dad frantically and woke him up. It's like 3 in the morning. And it was him. He had parked his car partially on the tracks and had been sitting on the hood of his car texting me pictures of the train coming, the light coming closer, the whole thing. Now, I know for a fact he didn't want to kill himself, because if he did, he would have just been standing on the tracks instead of sitting on the hood of his car that was partially on the tracks. And a few years prior, with some other girl, he had gone 75 miles an hour into a tree and walked away with just bruises somehow. And so I tried to get in, and they wouldn't let me in. So I went to his dad's house and woke up his dad, and we went to the hospital. And I ran in freaking out, and the girl behind the desk said, don't worry, he's alive. And I was so happy. I was so happy. And then we find out that he had suffered a major head injury and had dislocated or something his brain stem from his spinal cord. And if he had made it, he was going to be a vegetable forever. And so I called his mom. I got to be the one to tell everybody. That's the worst, one of the worst parts of this. And she came up from Arkansas, and she was super nice to me at first. Everyone was really super nice to me at first, and I never left his bedside. And I had no idea what was coming for me. After 3 days of him being in a coma and me not leaving his bedside, at 6 in the morning I got woken up by the nurse saying that the family would like it if you left, and you have an hour to say goodbye. And I did. I don't even know how I walked out of that room. And a few hours later, I tried calling his mom to see what was going on and whatever, and she never returned my call. And my parents had put me into a mental hospital because suicide is contagious, and they were worried about me. And I had found out that I was banned from the funeral after they had pulled the plugs while I was in the hospital. And to this day, most of the town either hates me or they love me. And this is almost 3 years ago. And I still suffer the wrath of the people that think I'm a murderer. There are people that think I was there and videotaped it. There are rumors everywhere of the most ridiculous things. And while all of this was happening when I was in the hospital, I had no idea that I was going to be treated the way I was. I had no idea. And to this day, his mom hates me. She will not talk to me. I had a fundraiser a year after his death to go to mental health. And she flew up from Arkansas to try and talk people out of coming to it. And it's just been really shitty. Like I said, that it just, I had absolutely no idea what I was walking into out of that. And it's hard enough to lose the best thing that had ever happened to me. And to see pictures of it happening. And to come to find out later that I had a voicemail from 301 and he was hit at 302. And I got to hear it all on my voicemail. And then I got to be labeled a murderer. It really sucked. And I miss him every hour of every day. Every hour of every day. So, that's my story. And, which leads me to why I really hate the 13 Reasons Why show. Because blaming people is so unfair. It's so unfair. I should have never, ever, ever been blamed. I had enough blame by myself than to have blame from others. And I hate that show. I hate that show so much. So, that's my story. And I do enjoy talking about it all because, like I said, I don't get asked enough. So if anybody would like to talk, I am always here. And so are my cats. Thank you for listening.